Welcome to the Live Like It's True podcast, where we look at some of the most interesting and surprising true stories of the Bible. I'm Shannon Popkin, inviting you to open your Bible with me to drink deeply of the story and to live like it's true. If you're here for one of our recent episodes, we're in the Judgy series. So we're looking at stories of judgment and mercy in the Bible and how to live like it's true that our God is a merciful judge. Well, we have Tammy De Armas back for a second episode. Tammy is the director for mission and advancement at PassionLife, which is a global pro-life organization. And Tammy and her husband, Pete, have been married for 37 years. They live in California with their 3 kids, and she's back to tell us more about her post-abortion story.
Thank you so much, Shannon. It's just a pleasure to be here.
So that day in church when somebody was talking about abortion and you said it didn't open a can of worms, it opened something. It gave you and your husband like, all right, this is time for us to deal with this. How has God brought you from the point where you were hiding this, even from your own kids, to now you're speaking about this and sharing your story with others? What did he do? How did he help you?
Well, I think hearing her speak, I've often thanked our pastor for allowing her to do that, because sitting in the balcony looking down, I realized I wasn't the only one. So it was, wow, we're able to talk about this. This is okay. This can be a safe place. So then I went to the pregnancy center and wanted to volunteer there because of my past. But they wanted me to go through post-abortion classes before I could even volunteer there. And I guess I don't go down without a kick and a scream on any part of this, because I'm like, no, I'm forgiven. I'm healed. And so I fought that. So I didn't even go back to the pregnancy center for a few years, and then was asked to be on the board and ended up subsequently joining the board. And but I remember a time I was standing in my kitchen and our 3 kids were swimming in the pool, which is right outside my kitchen window, and thinking about listening, hearing her speak and whatnot. And I remember saying, I have to admit that this abortion is wrong. That abortion was wrong. But in my mind, the enemy had me wanting to say, I won't say anything, because if I admit that abortion's wrong, then I really don't love these 3 children. But it's a bait and switch. It keeps you, because if you admit that's wrong, then you really love that child and not these children. So you can't do this. And
help me understand that more. If I admit that the abortion was wrong, then I'm admitting,
and that I really would have wanted that one. If I had that one, I love that baby. Then I really don't love these 3 because I chose these 3 and not that. Shannon, I can't even really describe it, because the feelings have gone since then. But I walked over to the microwave, and I remember saying, what do I do? And it was like the Lord said, I have that baby in heaven. It's I who gave you the 3 others. And I want you to use your voice to tell others what has happened. And I remember slamming the microwave door, and I'm like, all right, okay, that's where I'll go, because it's you who have it and you who took them away. I've just made the mess out of this.
Yes. So Tammy, can you tell us about your kids, the 3 that you do have? How did they find out about the abortion, and how did you decide whether to tell them that?
Yeah, we have 3, girl, boy, girl, and they were 14, 13, and 10. when we decided to tell them. And it was only after a lot of prayer. My husband really didn't want to share anything with them. It's like, why take our stuff and put it on them? But then when I was asked to be CEO at the pregnancy center, and I was going to be speaking in churches and all around, we didn't want them to hear it from somebody else. So we sat down at the dining room table and said, we need to talk to you about something. And they admitted later they thought we were going to say we were having another baby, which I don't know how that came about, but we shared with them what we had done when we were in college and that we had aborted that baby. And they all started crying. And particularly my oldest daughter and my son were very, very upset. My youngest one, she's a little bit more spicier. She was just a little bit angry. And her point to us was at 10, well, so what you're trying to tell us is you murdered our older brother or sister. Oh. And my husband just fell back in his chair. And her name's Julianne. We call her Hoolie. I'm like, Hools, you don't mince words, but that's what abortion is. So yes. And my son was very angry with me, not as much with my husband. And for a week and a half, 2 weeks, we kind of went round and round till I shared with him. I said, let's go talk to one of our pastors who's had an abortion. And he's like, other people have done this. So it caused him to give me a little bit more grace. But our oldest daughter, this is the one that got to me. She was crying and crying. And she said, you've given me something that I've always wanted. I always wanted an older brother. And I feel like you gave it and took it away in a sentence. And she said, but what I'm really crying for is I never felt like I was equipped to be the oldest sibling of your children. And she says, so through you telling me this, I know that was never God's intention. So now I think I can do this better. And she said, so my tears are kind of tears of joy because what I was feeling was truth. I wasn't the oldest. And I wanted to share that because it's an example of light in the darkness. It's not saying that everyone who's had an abortion needs to go share that with, their kids or whoever. This was after careful prayer that Pete and I did this. And it really took us back. We didn't sleep that night because then we were like, we've had 25 years to process this. These kids are babies and, they've got to process that. But they've come to say that you came to us with your most heinous act and you've leveled the playing field so that we can come to you with anything. And I think that was the blessing of it, because I've always prayed through Moms in Prayer that our kids would have great communication. And I've heard more than enough things that I never wanted to hear as a mother, and plenty of things that are just so sweet, intimate times with your kids. So I just wanted that to be said, because people might be wondering, well, what do we do with this? And for us, it was our story. It wasn't like Pete and somebody else or me and somebody else. It was our story.
Which is, that's unique. Well, and I think sometimes we're so hesitant to tell other people about our sin as if we're trying to create this facade that we haven't sinned in great grievous ways, right? And so, I don't think we should do so flippantly. I love the fact that you prayed very carefully before sharing this information. But I always have referred to this at least a dozen times on this podcast. There's this book called The Gospel Primer, and he takes, the gospel step by step, and he talks about how, why wouldn't I proclaim my sin from the mountaintops? Like, Jesus has already done that by dying on the cross. He's already said, my sin is bad enough that's what it took to take care of it. And so now that it's all out in the open, why would I be so against revealing the ways that I've fallen, the ways that I failed the Lord? Right. And in no way are we glorifying, the sin itself, but I think we glorify the Father when we're willing to humble ourselves and share, this is the way that I've sinned, and I too am forgiven. And that's I mean, what you were saying to your kids in that moment is, and you can be forgiven too. This is in our past, and we would love for you to never have something like this that you have to confess. But I mean, all of us, like, I feel like every generation, we want to save the next generation from our sins, from our failings, from our flaws. And every generation, it's just like the one before, where we do sin, we do fall. And yet Jesus lived that perfectly righteous life on our behalf. He's the one we point to, not ourselves.
No, absolutely not.
Well, I love where you're looking down from that balcony at this woman who is publicly talking about her abortion, and your heart is stirred because you realize you're not the only one. And what I want to say is, nobody is the only one. We're all in this together. Like, we are all fallen. There is not one person who is without sin. Nobody. And so to look at someone else's sin, and, contempt always says two things at once. It says, I'm disgusted with you, but it also says something about me. It says, I never have, I never would, I never could. And that is the lie of contempt, because we all have, we all would, and we all could, and we are all terribly deprived in our sinful state. And so, that I feel like the Lord was loosening the grip of that sin, of you being the only one and hiding in your shame in that moment. And yet still after that, it's interesting to me, you're not the only one, but yet it was still wrong. And you weren't quite ready to say it was wrong. And that's where I just think, wow, what keeps us as believers from saying, no, that was sin and it was wrong? Pride. Okay. Easy as that.
Right. I mean, that's that. When you said that, that's the first thing I think. And lots of times that still happens to me now. I'm like, what is your pride, Tammy? It's your pride. Let it go. Let it down.
And I wonder if when you were looking at the kids in the pool, you had to grapple with the fact that you played God there. You decided that 3 would live and 1 wouldn't. And, and you had, and that there's pride in that, right? There's pride in playing God and trying to be the autonomous overseer of life. And yet it took humility. Like, the opposite of the pride is the humility to say, no, I was wrong. So when you joined this board, then you had to go through, what did you call it? Post-abortive counseling?
Yeah, it's called post-abortion Bible studies, post-abortion counseling. And so it's usually a 6 or 8 week class, and just really going through what God's word says, and forgiveness, forgiving yourself. Many women, including myself, will say, well, I know God's forgiven me, but I can't forgive myself. Again, moving us higher. And
if you're a Live Like It's True listener, I'm guessing that you love to study the Bible like I do. We're getting quite a collection here of episodes on Live Like It's True, and I wanted to make it easier for you to search by particular story of the Bible. Maybe you're in a Bible study, you're studying a book of the Bible, or you want to do a deep dive on a particular story. Well, we've done a little work for you on the website, making it easier for you to search. You can now search by section and book of the Bible, and you can also search by series. We have the Judgy series, the Easter series, the True Story of the Beginning series. So you can find all of that at shannonpopkin.com.
So I had to go through that to do that. And that's where this bonding with this baby can come, because many women don't connect that. We drop off. And even to the point where I've asked our pastors if we could do memorials for those of us who've had abortions. Can we have memorials for our babies in the churches? And some of them are not. I think it would be great to do, but of course, I'm the one that speaks about things that people are like, well, let me think about that. But that's the healing. We don't go to memorials for the person that's died. We go to the memorials for all of us.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I love I want to go back to what you just said about forgiving ourselves, because when I say I can't forgive myself, once again, I'm putting myself in the judge's seat. I'm saying I've heard all of the testimony here, and I am pounding the gavel, and I have determined that was unforgivable. And so, my sin was unforgivable, and I don't belong in that seat. I am not the judge, and God is, and thank goodness he is a God so rich in mercy. I love this quote by Dane Ortland in his book, Gentle and Lowly. He says, we think of God as having all of this pent up wrath for us and our sin. But it's exactly the opposite. What is pent up in God's heart is love and compassion. He is the most understanding person. And he, it's like it's so pent up, and it's just takes the tiniest little prick for God to flood us with his mercy and his grace. That's what he longs to do. I'm thinking of the story of Jonah. He had all this contempt for the Ninevites. He didn't want to go there. Those people were awful. And he was going to go 2,000 miles in the opposite direction. He literally took a trip that would have taken him a year and a small fortune. That's how big his contempt was for the Ninevites, those horrifying people. But look at God's, what God wanted for the Ninevites. He was sending his person there because he wanted to open the door for his mercy, and they didn't know anything about God. And Jonah speaks this 5-word sermon. It's just 5 words in the Hebrew, and it's all judgment, 100% judgment. It's the worst sermon in the world. He doesn't even mention God. He gives them no path forward. It's all judgment, condemnation. It's like, in 40 days, you're all going to die. That's it. And for some reason, this whole city turned to God, and God relented. These were his enemies for centuries. And yet in that moment, it only took, the text reads as though it took like a day, and everybody falls, or, it's the citywide fasting, and they're all falling to their knees, and God relents of his disaster. He is excited. There's rejoicing in heaven when there's repentance. And so just look at that contrast between Jonah and the Lord. Jonah didn't want them to have mercy. God did.
We're studying Jonah at church right now, so I really want to get a sign about Tarshish, because how often God calls and we run this way? Mm-hmm. And to the point that he even has the sailors throw him over.
Right.
And it's not till he's in the belly of the whale that he cries out. So you think he's getting it. The whale throws him up on land, because that's, again, a miracle of the Lord. And then he says he's going to listen. And then he gets there and he still does that, what you were just saying. So I'm like, and we sit here in the pew and go, how could he do that?
Quite easily. Yeah. So look at all the ways that God has healed your heart and given you the ability to bask in his great mercy. What would you say to somebody who's struggling to say abortion is wrong?
I think the question is, what is abortion? Because we've taken the word abortion and made it like the word closet. It means nothing. But could that same person say child killing is wrong? Nobody murdering a child. Nobody in their right mind would say murdering a child is right. I think we have to dial it back to say abortion is wrong because it is the killing of an innocent child. Mm-hmm. But we have to determine what it is. It's been dialed down to be an option for a woman in an unplanned pregnancy. And the option is that child. I mean, that sounds so legalistic, and I don't want it to be. I always think there's somebody that's listening here that could be in this very moment right now and says, yeah, but Tammy, Shannon, you don't know my story. We don't, but God does. And he is a God who saves, and he is a God that will come alongside you in the most miraculous ways. Like when I look back at this and see what he's blessed us with our children, and then the pain that it even, we had to share with our kids, how that came about, and the pain, we want that to be stopped at this generation. We don't want it to carry on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you say that, is child killing wrong, right? The people of the Canaanites sacrificed their children. They killed their children, and they thought that was right. And so I love the story of Rahab in Jericho, because God is coming against this city in judgment. He has all of these laws. Don't be like the Canaanites, because they don't defer to my good judgment. They're doing whatever is right in their own eyes, including killing their children and a whole bunch of other things. There's a whole, look at Leviticus. There's like a whole chapter on who not to get naked with. It's like, so why do they need those laws? It's like everybody's deciding what's right in their own eyes. So God is marching at Jericho, ready for destruction, and they are walled up. They're like, oh no, you're not going to come at us. They're just shutting all the gates and the doors. And yet there is one woman in the middle of that city who's like waving this white flag. Like, I want on your team. And she's a prostitute. It's not like she's this, super holy person, right? Living this pure life. She's just a part of her culture, and she's doesn't know right from wrong either. And she just waves this with this white flag. Can I be on your team? And God loves that. But it does involve switching teams. It does involve saying, I no longer am going to be the one deciding what is right and wrong for me. Being one, belonging to God fundamentally is saying you are God and I am not. And so I defer to you on what is right, what is wrong. I recognize that, like Eve and everybody else, my vision is skewed, and I'm looking at something that you say is evil. And to me, it doesn't look evil, but I'm going to defer to you on that. And so how does he respond when we wave that white flag? He sent people in to get her. The whole city, the walls are collapsing. Everybody is falling. He escorted her and her family out. That's how God feels about someone who is ready to turn to him.
Yeah, filled with mercy. And we live in a world where right is wrong and wrong is right. And it's all about the unholy trinity of me, myself, and I. It's how I feel, what I can do. I was reading the false narratives that were on your website, and I have to rely on myself. That's many of us who've walked into that abortion clinic. I have to rely on myself, and we become survivors, and then we think it worked. I had many moms would come into the clinics and say, well, my daughter needs an abortion. Can you tell us where to go? Which we don't tell them where to go, but I had an abortion and I'm fine. And so she needs an abortion. And in my mind, I so wanted to say, are you sure you're fine?
Yeah.
Are you sure you're fine? But that was not professional at all to say, but my heart was breaking, because for a long time I thought I was fine till I had the microwave issue with the Lord after hearing, the women speak in church.
Yeah.
It was just, and it was this constant, it's this peeling of layers to get to the core of what he wants. In the meantime, it's a total transformation of who you are. And it was really inside of there, but life's issues and whatnot have caused things to cover you. And even to think like God made a mistake, God made a mistake in my life somehow.
Yeah, it's a clouding of judgment. And again, it's putting myself above him. I get to decide, and he let me down. So I got to take over here. I got to take care of me, or I've got to take care of my daughter. Whereas the opposite response is a humbling. I'm going to defer to your good judgment, God. What do you say is good? What do you say is evil? Who do you say you'll be to me? You're going to be my rescuer. I just wave that white flag and you're there for me and you're going to take care of me. I love the story of Rahab because she is integrated into, she doesn't just stay on the outside of the camp. She becomes one of them and she is in the birth line leading to Jesus. Like that's what God thinks of those who are willing to surrender to him, to his good judgment. And also, I mean, we haven't even talked about what Jesus has done for us. You know, he died in our place. He took all of our shame. He took all of our sin. He nailed it to that cross that we could be completely forgiven and clean. That's what he's done for us. What would you say though, to someone who is looking back at their abortion with all of that shame and condemnation still?
I would really ask them to go to a local pregnancy center and find a post-abortion group, a post-abortion mentor. They can call me. I've taught post-abortion in the women's prison here, and taught several classes.
What is the most important thing you teach in those?
It's the shame. It's this unhealthy shame that, you know, because there's shame, there's healthy shame, but there's unhealthy shame. And it's just, we're carrying burdens he never asked us to carry on top of it. And so, letting that go, taking that all away, peeling those layers back. I think that's the most important for the women to hear and see and think. They're going to go deep. It's going to, even talking today to you and going back to the, you know, the smells or the noises, it just physically takes a toll. It will, you know, it comes back to you because it's a death.
Yeah.
But replacing that with the blessing of where I am now, there's consequences. There's consequences to our sin. And we know that, but he's not asking us to drag it. Everything is equal at the foot of the cross. It is left there and we rise.
How does that death on the cross heal this death that we're looking back at in abortion? What's the connection there?
I look at that death as he knew that this was going to happen. And it's a substitutionary. He covered it. I often think of a word picture of chocolate covered cherries. He's covered it. He's covered my filthy, disgusting sin by what he did on the cross for that. And you know, to look at that crown of thorns and all that he went through this very week, you know, going through each day, I'm reading something else. And so that's, and it's finished. It's finished. It's over. It's over.
Yep.
So I would want a woman to know that, to understand whose she is, not who she is, but whose she is. We can't go through something like this and come out healed without Christ.
Right.
There's no way. People have asked me, can you do this post-abortion stuff without the Bible? Absolutely not.
I mean, apart from Jesus, we do face God's judgment and we should be afraid. There is a judge and there is a coming day where we will be held accountable for our sin. And it's worse than we're imagining, but we don't have to be in that position. We can, like you're saying at the cross, there's a double imputation. Jesus took my sin onto him and paid it. And I receive his righteous life on my account. Like I get all the credit. He lived a perfect life on my behalf. It's like Jesus faced every temptation and he looked at that, you know, potential for abortion and he chose the way that I didn't, right? Every sin that he encountered, he lived a perfectly righteous life that I could never have done. He did that on my account. And then on top of that, at the end of that perfect life, he allowed himself, you know, this was not him, being overcome by those Roman soldiers, Jesus spoke a word and they all fell back all over each other. He had all the power necessary to avoid the cross, but he chose the cross because he took that burden of my sin onto himself. It is finished. It has been done. And for us to continue to put that burden back on our shoulders, we're either not realizing what all that Christ has done for us, or we're not believing it. And so, once we have crossed over from death to life, it is finished. We are forgiven. We live without any condemnation. Praise the Lord.
Or would you think it's also not trusting?
Yes. Yeah.
Not trusting. It's just like Jonah, even after all, he's still, because things aren't working out his way or whatever, does God really know best here in this? And could he really forgive me? He couldn't possibly forgive me.
Yeah. It's so true. Well, Tammy, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. As you think about your, looking back at your, that moment where you slammed that microwave shut, how can we have that moment for ourselves and live like it's true?
Oh, I want to say I surrendered, but we know from my story, I don't go down without a fight. I had to believe it because I was at the end of myself. The quicker someone can die to their own self-sufficiency, this is, it's not a fake it till you make it thing, but to understand that you are not self-sufficient and to let that go and let him take over. And just watch at little pointers, little points, because you'll see it come through. It's like, how did this, God did this. It's not me. It's not me and my magical thinking. It's not me and my oversense of responsibility on leadership skills or whatever. Yes, he's gifted me in certain ways, but he is going to move this forward. And I would just ask people to sit before the Lord. I spend a lot more time with the Lord than I ever have before. That from back then till now, this office that I have in our house, this is my prayer room. My kids know it. And my husband knows it. When I'm in here, I'm just doing business.
I love it. So I see in your story 2 moments that you lived like it's true. There was the moment where you slammed that microwave and said it was wrong. It was wrong. I own that. And that is part of our story. Living like it's true is saying, God, I defer to you. You're going to decide for me what's right and wrong. But it doesn't end there. We also live like it's true when we offer his forgiveness to others. We may have listeners who somebody else had an abortion and they are grieved over that. It's not what they wanted. And so by extending God's mercy in that situation, we live like it's true that he is a merciful God. There are hundreds of different ways that we live like this overarching story of the Bible is true. But abortion is not the unforgivable sin. There is a life of redemption afterward. And I'm so glad that you've gotten to live that story. Can I just remind you that these stories in the Bible are true stories? They're absolutely true. God could have given us a list of facts about himself, but instead he gave us a book filled with stories. These stories help us to know God, and collectively they help us to understand this overarching story that we are all part of. So I hope this episode will inspire you to study this story for yourself straight from the Bible. To help, I've put together my Live Like It's True workbook. It includes some of my favorite tools for studying the narrative sections of our Bible. Also, we're getting quite a collection of episodes, and we've done some work on the website making it possible for you to search for a particular story of the Bible by section and book of the Bible. Come check that out along with my other books and resources at shannonpopkin.com. Live Like It's True is part of the Resound Media Network. For more gospel-centered resources, go to resoundmedia.cc. We've got that link for you, along with any other links to resources we've mentioned in the show notes. All right, friend, are you ready? Now it's time to go live like it's true.